You are live. Evidently, we're live.
Allegedly.
So they say allegedly. Uh, Leave a comment and let us know if we are actually live. This is you guys who watch this. You kind of work for the show. You let us know if we're actually live. As usual on Instagram, you guys it won't let me give you the full. I want to give you the full This Is Jen live experience, and it won't let me be great
Rude.
on Instagram live. And I will not knock down the Instagram mic this time. So if you see me talking about visuals on the screen and audio and stuff, you can find that on Facebook or on YouTube. And then of course we publish this as a regular podcast as well. Okay, so let's start the show. Let me see. Facebook, YouTube. I'm on. Okay, thank you, Jennifer. Thank you for letting me know. Thank you for the work you guys do for the show. Shady. Let's get this started. Welcome to This Is Jen, episode 64 for the month of May and maybe longer. We are doing this podcast live. I am back to my live broadcast roots with this podcast. Leave a comment while you are watching and let me know. And I'm not going to respond while I am on the air, so to speak, because I like to make this a smooth experience for the replay viewers as well. So I don't respond in real time to a whole lot of comments, but I do read them all later. After we get off the air, I sit in this wonderful avocado green couch that is in the studio, and I read all your comments. So in particular, tell me what you are doing while you watch this broadcast. For those of you who are broadcasting live, leave a comment. Tell me what you are doing while you watch. Today, you know what I'm going to do? I will do a service for you today. I'm putting to rest your fears about UFOs. This is the new thing because we all need something to be afraid of. We just have to be stressed about it. We can't enjoy our lives. We have to find things to be stressed about. And so this is what you've been hoping for. It's the astrophysics edition of This Is Jen. Hit the applause sound effect. Yes, finally. Finally. I know how to be relevant, right?
Yeah.
Who's relevant? I'm relevant.
You're relevant.
Wait, you find a podcast where people are talking about astrophysics. You can't, well, okay, Neil deGrasse says, okay, so there are some, Sam Harris, like, oh, okay, well, whatever. But find a podcast by a suburban mom of six that shares relatable household moments and astrophysics. You can't find another one like this. And this is how you get signed with UTA.
You're welcome.
It was my astrophysics content. That's how you get signed with UTA. So we'll talk about that. You guys, look, there's a lot of things to worry about. UFOs don't need to be one of them. So let's just get rid of that fear. We will get into that. We will also talk about I shared on social media, someone did a tweet saying that they were on board. They were on the Jen Fulwiler bandwagon before I was a famous TikTok star and signed with UTA. So it's good. And I'll talk about I think anyone can relate to this, like just the progression of what you do in life and what you share. And wow, I wish my coffee weren't like 5 feet away here. Okay, so we'll talk about that a little bit later. And I'm also going to restate my case that that Christians have got to not be concerned about hearing bad language. And I did this. This was probably like the 5th or 6th episode of this podcast. I did a whole thing about this back in the day, and so we'll go into that. I actually feel very strongly about that. So here we go. And again, leave comments. Tell me what you're doing while you watch this broadcast. Let us begin with so Marco Rubio has said, like, he's someone that people listen to. He's someone that people, feel like he knows about things. So the Florida Senator Marco Rubio has urged American lawmakers to take the issue of UFOs seriously. He said that we need to start taking this seriously. Reading from here, this is where is this? This is in the Guardian. They say the report follows a renewed push by former government officials and senators, including Rubio, to investigate the reports of UFOs seen by the military. Now let me preface this by saying, if he is thinking that maybe this is those sneaky Russians being up to something again, then I'm okay. Then I'm in favor of that. Like, if you think that the Russians are up to no good, and that's why we need to study UFOs, because it could be some sort of Russian object in our airspace, fine. If you think it's aliens, we're going to get to that. You can relax. You can relax. That worry about coronavirus, even though we've got the vaccine. I just find anything else to worry about but this. He says, I want to take it seriously. And he has a process to take. He has a process to take UFOs seriously. This is why we have problems in this country, that we're now making this a priority. This is our politicians trying to deflect from real problems. The Florida Republican said a system was needed to catalog data on these objects until answers have been found. Well, I mean, let's also think about this. Who could it be? Who could it be with these UFOs? I mean, like, it's not Uzbekistan, right? Right? By the way, I forgot to introduce Shady Ray, our producer here, the lovely, the one, the only Shady Ray. It's not Uzbekistan. It's not Georgia, the country, not the state. Well, it could be the state, but the country of Georgia. It's not Fiji. They're not flying weird things in our airspace. They're minding their own business. They're living their best lives down there in the Pacific Ocean. It's either the Russians or the Chinese. So case closed, Marco. Like, get back to figuring out. I feel like there's an economic collapse coming. So could you guys get back to working on that? Anything that enters an airspace that is not supposed to be there is the threat. I agree with that. Rubio acknowledged that the military and others have a history of dismissing the issue. Maybe because it's a non-issue. Maybe because we have other things to focus on. There's a stigma on Capitol Hill, Rubio said. Some stigmas exist for a reason. I mean, some of my colleagues are very interested in this topic, and some kind of, giggle when you bring it up. I want a list of who giggles, because that's me. That's me, the one who giggles at this. And then, I don't know, the
top of the list.
In August, the Pentagon resurrected its program to collect and analyze information on mystery objects. So this is a litmus test we can use for how fine things are in terms of our own national security. I guarantee you, like, they haven't found any big massive terrorist threats lately, or if we're reprioritizing UFOs. So this is actually perfect. I found on TikTok, of all places, an astronomy expert. This gentleman is making points about space generally. However, in the process of his excellent points about space, he really goes into what I think is the main case for why we don't need to be worried about this, which is that space is huge. Do you know how long it would take aliens to get over here? Like, so long. And that was, that's the scientific explanation.
Like, ain't nobody got time for that.
Right. So you guys are about to hear from, I tried so hard to look up this guy's name. All I know is his handle. He doesn't publish his name anywhere. I think it's Pharaoh DBB. I'm pretty sure. So you will hear from him. Let's listen to him perfectly describe why we don't. This is an astronomy expert, very concisely describing why we do not need to be worried.
Tell y'all 5 facts about space that you probably didn't know. For one, shit in space close together. None of shit is close together. It look like it's close together, but it's not. Everything in outer space is far as apart. Space has voids that stretch easily from 30 to 300 million light years across, meaning that if you were to cross from one side to the other, moving at the speed of light, it would still take you 30 to 300 million years to get to the other side. Number 3, we are small as the fastest we have ever been able to travel is like, 45,000 miles an hour? Somewhere around them numbers. The size and distance comparisons in space are out of this world. The next closest galaxy to us would take 2 million years to get to at the speed of light. And we cannot even go that fast right now. Number 4, Space is empty, but it's not empty, but it's empty as hell. Imagine just floating through a place that's so dark you can't see your hand in front of you. There is no sound whatsoever. And at any moment, a rock moving through space at tens of thousands of miles an hour, the size of a grain of sand, could blow through your body and put a hole in you the size of your head. Yeah, space scary as.
Yep. So just so well said. And you guys who have been following me for a while know I grew up around astronomers, astronomy people. One of my dad's best friends wrote the foremost book on meteorites and things like that. Like I have a meteorite collection. I have regular I have a meteor that was well, it's not a meteor. It was a piece of the Earth that got thrown up into space by a massive meteor strike and then came back down. So it's like I'm not some basic meteorite person, like
top dog.
Right, top dog. Yeah, right. Like, oh, you guys have your little, it's just like a rock from space. Well, I have 10 of those. And
sit down.
Yeah, right. Sit down. Sit down. Like that. I have what would Shady say? I have a dope meteorite. I have a dope meteorite collection. So I know I grew up around astronomy people, and this TikTok guy, he speaks exactly like they do, slightly different lexicon, but we would always talk about this. So let me tell you guys, the nearest, I didn't want this to turn into an astrophysics podcast. It's not, this wasn't my choice.
It's okay.
But the astrophysics life, happen. I didn't choose the astrophysics life. The astrophysics life chose me. Because everyone's worried about UFOs and I have to help you guys calm down. Okay, so the nearest inhabitable planet, guys, is 4.2 light years away. Proxima Centauri. Well, no, I'm sorry. Excuse me. You guys are like, what? Jen's smoking crack. No, I'm sorry. Proxima Centauri is the star that it orbits. Proxima B is the name of the planet. And that sounds like a rapper's name, but it's actually a possibly inhabitable planet's name. Proxima B, 4.2 light years away. So you're like, oh, maybe the advanced civilization, 4.2 years, like they bring some extra snacks, they get some dry goods, and they get over here to take over the Earth. No, that's not actually how it works. Traveling at the speed of light. Let's go into that. You can't do it. And you're like, maybe aliens are really advanced. Like, no. Like you go outside of time when you hit the speed of light. So this is getting just way more down in the weeds than I intended for it to, as this podcast always does. But Shady, do you think that people want to hear about how time is connected to the speed of light?
I think so.
I think they do. So as you approach the speed of light, time slows down. Now, it doesn't actually slow down because time is relative, and this is why time effectively stops at the center of a black hole. It's because black holes appear, their gravity is so heavy that it warps space-time. And okay, you know what? I'm going to skip the black hole tangent, but time does kind of stop at the center of a black hole. That's all I'm trying to say. And the point that I'm really trying to support here is that as you get closer to the speed of light, you start messing with time. Like, for example, they took atomic clocks and they would put one atomic clock in a jet and they'd keep the other on the ground, and they were perfectly synced. And so they go fly around in the really fast jet, which is, get like approaching the speed of light. And the clocks would be different. And I think the one who was going faster appears to slow down. So I think you age less if you spend a lot of time on jets.
Dang.
At least the way it appears, because all of this is relative. So the point is, there's no like, oh, Jen, maybe aliens are so civilized that they're traveling at the speed of light. They're not, because they can't, because that's not how God made the universe. So realistically, even if these are fast aliens, like these are like Fast and the Furious aliens. It's so like Vin Diesel in a alien Maserati. We're talking 70,000 years. Think about this. You spend 70,000 years to get to a place. You want to come here? You want to come here to this mess? And the other thing that the gentleman in the TikTok video points out is that we're small. Like our planet is so tiny and small. How would they find us? How would they even find us in the whole cosmos? Our planet is super tiny. But again, if you spend 70,000 years to get to a place, I just don't think this place is worth it. I think that you would fly around our atmosphere.
They're like gross.
Yeah, well, they'd probably, hook up to our satellite broadcasts. They'd probably find this podcast and be like, this is a mess.
No,
Last week it was evolutionary psychology. This week it's astrophysics. They'd be like, we don't want to be on this planet. We don't want to be on, we don't want to be on planet Earth. And they'd see that, like, what are the ridiculous things in the, like Kim and Kanye getting divorced was major news. Bill Gates was hitting on women left and right when he wasn't on Jeffrey Epstein's plane. They're just like, why don't want to be here? I will take the 70,000 year trip back to Proxima B, which is, probably not what they call it, but I'm going back because this place is a disaster. And this reminds me of, I actually pulled this up to share with you guys. So the way that they found out, even, and you're like, I don't know, Jen, I'm not convinced. I'm skeptical. That I think that maybe there is a lot going on Proxima B, and they found a way to get really close to the speed of light. Maybe it was only 10,000 years for them to get over here. And again, keep in mind, this is the nearest hospitable to life planet. So that's the nearest one. And the way, look, I don't want to call into question astrophysicists because they're my people and I love them. But the way they found out that this is a planet that could support life is they look at the star. Because think about it. How would you find out? If someone was like, hey, what's your name? You got comment with your names. What's your name? And I'm like looking where there's not even a camera. I'm so now to all the feeds, I'm like, I'm looking at a wall. We have a lot of cameras in this place. So whatever your name is, let's choose common names. Jessica, Jennifer, not Shady. Probably no one else named Shady. Paul. So if someone's like Paul, what do you think is the nearest planet that could have life on it? Well, what would you do? Okay, Marina. All right, so Marina. I see Marina's name here. Marina. How would you find it? You'd be like, well, I guess I need a telescope, right? Because how else? That's the only way we know about anything in space is through our telescopes. We don't. It's all just, and all you can do is see light through telescopes. So and that's what these scientists did.
That looks like a circle.
They have really nice, and they have infrareds, whatever. I mean, I'm like, this is like $1 billion telescope. I'm like, whatever.
Right.
So they found the star Proxima Centauri. They found Proxima Centauri. Aren't you glad you listened to this podcast? And the way the light shifts, they can see by the way it's the redshift thing. By the way it moves, that there is something kind of heavy orbiting it. I described that super well. This is what, don't listen to Neil deGrasse Tyson. This is the astronomy podcast you need to listen to. So all because of the way the light shifts on this star, they're like, therefore, a big planet that's about 1.5 size the times of Earth, that it must be orbiting it. And therefore there could be life on it, all because of the way the light shifts on a star.
That's it?
Yes. Yeah. See, you think they know. You think that they have footage of, like, there's like a Kalahari resort there. And like they say, oh, look, that alien's going down the slide. This is all a light shift. It's all because of a light shift on a star. Do we really know that that means
that planet looks lit?
Right. Yeah. Right. That planet looks lit. What if the star is just messing around? I'm not sure that we know. Which brings us to Nate Bargatze. He's a fantastic comedian. He's going on tour. You've got to see his shows. On the off chance you guys don't know who this guy is, he's amazing. Also, Aaron Weber is a good friend of mine, and he's also on Nate's podcast, the Nate Land podcast. It's hilarious. You should listen to it. So this is Nate Bargatze making points that, frankly, I think more people should be making about about scientists and their and how we know that there might be a planet there and it might be inhabitable. If this plays, let's hear what Nate has to say.
I can't hear it on my side.
I think I think you guys could hear that. So I'm really with Nate on that. I am really with Nate on that. Is there really a planet there, or do you know that we wouldn't know how to call you out on, like, you're seeing random lights in the sky and you're like, that's a planet. And I bet, they have rocket ships that can, like, go close to the speed of light. So that, I just kind of, I don't know. I wonder if there's even a planet there, is all I'm saying. Okay, now I know you guys want me to spend a lot more time on this because it is such a scintillating subject, but I will end by saying, what's interesting is that no matter how close you get to the speed of light, it always moves away from you at the same speed. This is a little, break this out with your atheist loved ones, because they'll be like, science. So no matter how close you get to the speed of light, it moves away from you at the same speed. And so what's a word that we could use for that, Shady? Unapproachable, right?
I think so.
Guess what's in scripture? Guess what's in scripture? Atheists, checkmate, atheists. So if I can find the screen share here, share screen. What is in scripture is a quote that I'm looking up here. Here we go. I found it. I knew I'd find it. Look at this. So we learn in Timothy 6:16. Timothy 6:16 refers to God as who alone is immortal and lives in unapproachable light. Isn't that interesting that if you could travel at the speed of light, which you can't, so stop talking about aliens doing that, you would in some ways be like eternal or immortal, or because like you'd sort of be outside of time if you could actually move at the speed of light. It's also interesting that, like, in Genesis, very first thing in the Bible, let there be light. First thing we hear in Genesis. And then also now in Timothy, we hear that light is unapproachable. This was written thousands of years ago. It turns out, light is unapproachable. Light is unapproachable. Checkmate, atheist. I thought that was really interesting. I actually discovered that quote. I really believe it was a God thing. I was doing some physics reading, and I was reading about that, about how no matter how close you get to the speed of light, that it always moves away from you at the same speed. Later that day, I happened to open the Bible, and that Timothy 6:16 quote was right there. And the craziest thing about that, for people who know me, is me opening the Bible. Look, I'm Catholic.
What were you doing?
Because for some of you guys, my friends like
what
Crystal Evans-Hurst, like Jennifer Dukesley, Allie Worthington, these people, for them, it's like, yeah, but you have the Bible open all day long. So, I mean, probably you'd come across that verse at some point. But me, it was like, what is this? Oh, I thought this was 50 Shades of Grey. It's the Bible. Like, so that, I mean, it was really, truly, that was a God moment. Okay. Now I know you guys are like, no, more astrophysics talk. We want to hear more about the speed of light. I'm going to end this topic, but just to say, I think that sometimes we make up things to worry about. Sometimes we need to gaslight ourselves, like we need a little gaslighting sometimes, where it's like, birthday. Yeah, but wait, why go to gaslight myself? Yeah. Like,
go.
Shady's it. She's like, yeah, didn't drop this mic. Yeah, Shady's on board with it. Sometimes, guys, we need to gaslight ourselves because we get all wound up about stuff. And what we don't realize is that we have problems. We have a mess in our personal life that we don't want to think about. And so we're worried about UFOs. And we're listening to Marco Rubio, like, oh, I'm concerned. I think we should study this because it could be aliens. If you want to be concerned about the Russians, maybe the Chinese, who else is a threat? I probably just them. They're the only countries big enough, So fine, be concerned about them. But if you're concerned about aliens, it's time to just say that this is not a valid, like, you're just kind of making stuff up. And there's probably, and I say this from great personal experience, there's probably something in your personal life that you're trying not to think about. And that's why you're worried about aliens. And I can say that as the world's expert on creating problems so that I don't have to deal with stuff that I actually don't want to
laundry
deal with.
Must be the aliens.
No, it's not. Oh, no. It's and that's the thing, is it's never laundry. It's stuff like, okay, for example, so our kids are, all of our kids eventually are now going to school, but a lot of them are in school. So I'll give you an example. It became clear at one point that homeschooling wasn't, it had ceased to work. It worked in the past, but for us, for that time, it was like, okay, this is not working. But any parent knows that's a scary realization, because to change the entire system, how your kids are educated, it's like, where do you even start? And because we had looked into the Catholic school that some of our kids go to, but it was looking like, for a few reasons, that wasn't going to be a possibility. But I'd heard some bad things about the public school, but I didn't know, is that unfounded, or maybe the public school is fine? It's that kind of problem, something big, something that is very deeply personal, that relates to marriage or family or God, or like the big things in life. Like if you're secretly, it's like you're questioning your faith, but you don't want to admit it, or you have marriage issues, you have issues with your kids, you realize that the way you're educating them is not working, but you feel like you're between a rock and a hard place. That's what it is. It's when there's some big, dark, looming problem, but we kind of feel in the back of our minds like there's no solution. Like I'm between a rock and a hard place here. Like, it is a problem, but I do not have either the time or the money or the energy or the know-how or whatever to do anything about it. That is when we start worrying about aliens. And that's when we're like, but is the vaccine going to work? Like, yes, the vaccine works. Like, calm down. And when we find ourselves just fixating, especially on big world problems that we don't need to fixate on, starting drama in our personal lives, a lot of times it's because one of those, like, there's secretly a problem and you're denying it because you feel like you don't know how to solve it. And that's a story of my life.
Checks
okay.
out.
Yeah. Checks out. So let's talk about, you know what? Okay. Briefly, I just want to say, so the astrophysics guy in this amazing video.
Tell y'all 5 facts about space that you probably didn't know. For one, shit in space close together. None shit is close together. It look like it's close together, but it's not. Everything in outer space is far apart. Space has voids that stretch easily from 30 to 300 million light years across, meaning that if you were to cross from one side to the other, moving at the speed of light, it would still take you 30 to 300 million years to get to the other side.
No work, because he uses, okay, Shady, I'm done with that. He uses bad language. I've said this before and I'll say it again. I think that Christians need to, and let's face it, like 90% of my followers are probably Christian. I think that Christians need to relax about people using bad language. And, if someone recommends someone to follow and they use bad language, you don't have to follow them, but I don't get upset about that, because bad language is the language of people under pressure. Think of a group that is stereotyped as using bad language. I guarantee you that is a group that is under pressure. Let's take pirates, for example. You don't think of pirates as being like, golly shucks, boy, that was a disheartening turn of events. Shucks. That's, that you don't think of that. Well, they're under pressure. All the robbing and stealing and running from the law. Pirates live under pressure. When I worked in the high-tech startup world, I saw some emails that Joe and I exchanged when we were working in high tech. I don't know what our problem was. We could not say a sentence without the F word. I mean, it would seriously be like, I was asking him, we weren't even dating. Like, do you want to go to coffee? And there would be 3 F-bombs in it. I just but that was a high pressure. That was a high pressure world. It was very high pressure. Yeah, right. It's like our companies were given all this money that they didn't need to be given, and hence the crash. Oops. But anyway, it was a very high pressure environment. Prison people. I think I haven't been to prison yet, but I don't. This podcast isn't over yet, so that could be an option on the table. We don't know. People use bad language in prison. They're under pressure. And so if you have a worldview, I understand not wanting to use it yourself. I'm not saying that you as a Christian should show up to the Sunday morning, the Saturday morning Bible study, to the ladies' tea and scripture meeting and be like, what's up, you blankety blanks? Let's get this blank going, you blanks, like blank. Like, I'm not saying that. But I am saying that you should be curious about the world around you. And one of the great things about modern culture, and I don't start a lot of sentences with that, one of the great things about modern culture, but one of the great things is that we do have, our culture is not as stratified as it used to be. It used to be that if, let's say you were a upper middle class white guy who lived in the suburbs, it used to be 20, 30, 40 years ago, pretty much you would only encounter other upper middle class white people who lived in the suburbs. Like 80, 90% of your daily interactions, if maybe more like 90 to 99% of your daily interactions would be within that world. And now, just thanks to social media and our neighborhoods aren't as segregated. And I don't mean segregated by law, like the history of segregation, but it just used to be that it was always like one type of people lived in that neighborhood, and there is less of that now. Could still use some more work, but there's less of that. So you have opportunities to encounter people of all different backgrounds who have whole different life experiences. And so maybe you come from a culture, maybe you come from an upper middle class church going culture where people, they don't ever use profanity. Like it's considered very bad. That's not the thing. Great. You should adhere to that. Good. If that violates your personal morals, don't use profanity. Fantastic. But you will not be able to be curious about the world around you. You will not be able to meet neighbors who have had different life experiences or encounter people on social media who are giving you fire content.
Number 3, we are small. The fastest we have ever been able to travel is like what, 45,000 miles an hour, somewhere around them numbers. The size and distance
to encounter that, if you feel like you can't be exposed to that language. Think about, there's I was just watching a video. I think it's the Franciscan Friars of the Renewal, some monks and priests. I think it's them. Anyway, someone has a ministry, and it's in the greater New York City area. I forget which borough. And they work with like guys who are into street life, whether it's gangs, whether it's drugs. I mean, they're with kind of the poorest of the poor, not just financially, but also just spiritually, people who are involved in just bad news and bad stuff. And think about it. These guys, imagine them being like, well, I would like to go minister in these projects that is heavy with gang activity. But I can't, I hope nobody says the S word, because that would be, that would be a deal killer. Yeah. It's like, well, they can't do it. And let's face it, if you're a Christian, like we're all missionaries. Like we live in missionary culture now. We live in a post-Christian culture. We're all missionaries, and you can't encounter the world around you if you're not willing to hear a few F-bombs. So that is my case. I just think that we're not going to get to know our neighbors unless we relax about the language. And like, I would just like to see, like on social media, my friends who are in when I say Christian world, I mean, I don't even necessarily mean they're super practicing, like they never miss a Sunday at church, but they're in that world of basically church-going people. And like they might know someone that they really want to promote, an up-and-coming artist doing great work, and just really someone who needs more eyeballs on what they're doing. They're a lovely person. They're making the world a better place. But this person uses a little bit of language here and there. I had a conversation with someone about this recently, that they said, Why can't I love this musician? Like, he has just not gotten a fair shake. You know, the record labels, you know, they don't like it, that whatever, like he has this background. But they said, yeah, I can't link to him because like he said the S word in his post the other day and my followers wouldn't like that. We need to relax. We need to relax and get over that, because we're not connecting with the culture around us. We're not in the mix of the marketplace of ideas if we can't be exposed to language. Okay, so we got that. Yes, I can check that. Did I hit all my points? I did. See, I'm prepared. Now that we're live, I prepare for these shows very greatly. Now let's get to someone on Twitter that I'll check the name here. This is just incredible. One of the greatest tweets. This lady, I don't know, girl, lady, I don't know, just amazing person. So she said, let me see if I can quote this from, oh, here we go. I found it. I don't need to quote it from memory. She said, all you people jumping on the Jen Fulwiler bandwagon now that she's all TikTok famous and with United Talent, pshaw. I started following her in 2008 when my friend said, there's this blog you really need to read. And the rest was history. So this, that I put this on social media. You should look on Facebook and on Instagram. A lot of people are commenting about how they used to read my blog back in the day, like way back.
That's so fun.
I know, it's so fun. It's really been fun to see all the comments, and people would talk about what they were doing. They would say like, oh, when my first baby was little, that baby is now, you know, heading into the teens. And like, I would cuddle that baby and I would read your blog. And people have asked about that for those of you who are new followers, I started out with like an anonymous blog where I didn't even use my real name. And from there, I went to, some people say I went from there to podcasting. I didn't. I went there straight to radio. How about that? Straight from blogging to radio. That was, you know, just thrown in the deep end there. So I went there. I went straight from blogging to radio. And then after, well, I mean, I was an author before. That's how the radio people found me, is I was doing publicity for my first book, For Something Other Than God. That's how the guys at SiriusXM found me. So I went blogger, author, radio, and then now I do stand-up comedy. And when people ask, how did that, like, it just seems crazy. Like, you just decided to get into stand-up comedy, and like, why now? And I really see it. And I was talking about this on Patreon. You need to be part of my Patreon community, patreon.com/thisisjen. Actually, in the most recent episode, I was talking about how I really see this progression of my career as it's all the same part of one. It's all the same part of the same whole. Like, basically, I started blogging because I was exploring faith, and I'd always been an atheist, and I was trying to figure out this faith thing. But the impetus there was, I felt like I could maybe relieve people's burdens. I felt like I had something I could share in the sense of explaining why I was choosing to come to faith after an entire like being raised atheist, like why I was choosing to go this direction. And so, but what I started to see is, and I swear this was a God thing, because I'd been very serious. I had initially done humor writing before my conversion. That was when I was a programmer. I also did humor writing, and it went viral, and it was pretty successful. But then I felt like, oh, I'm becoming Catholic now, so I need to stop being funny. I need to jettison my sense of humor immediately and be as boring as possible. I don't know. I got that. I felt like that was like, no more humor writing, you know? And then God sent me, and I do kind of believe this was a God thing, a scorpion infestation. My house became overrun with scorpions, and I just went on my blog and I started ranting about it, and those started going viral. And I was like, where were you guys? Where were you guys on, like, back when I was saying like deep theological hey, I talked about astrophysics. I made the unapproachable light point on the old blog, and I was like, okay, you guys want to hear me rant about scorpions, but that was humor stuff. So anyway, I started to realize that that's, you know, if you can do comedy, if you can do comedy writing and that sort of thing, you should, because not everyone can or wants to do that. And so my whole career has been trying to make people's lives better, make points that I think they might find interesting and helpful, but be funny too. And stand-up comedy is just the purest form of that. That's a distillation of what I was doing when I was just writing books or blogging or whatever. So I don't see doing stand-up comedy as some huge departure from what I was doing. I think it's just the natural fulfillment.
Hand in hand.
Yeah. And another thing I was saying at patreon.com/this is Jen. Another thing I was saying is did you do the applause? You could do
I did the applause a little bit ago.
Nice. Yeah, do the applause again. Patreon.com/this is Jen. Another thing is that I'm a big believer in whatever it is you're meant to do, whether we're talking career, whether we're talking family, really wait on God's timing, because that it wouldn't have worked. If I tried to do stand-up comedy 10 years ago, for 10 different reasons, it wouldn't have worked. The industry wasn't where I would need it to be in terms of, the industry was very much kind of non-technical. I mean, you really had to be down at the clubs. There was no other way to work out material. Like, I needed social media, I needed podcasts, I needed all of that for someone with my lifestyle to be able to make it in stand-up comedy. And so I don't know. I feel like stand-up comedy is the thing that I was most meant to do. Of all the things I've done, I feel like that's kind of my highest and best use, I guess you could say. But it just wasn't. So when people hear that, they assume that I must really regret that I didn't get into that 10, 15 years ago. No, because that wasn't the right place for me. Even though I do think it's a gift I'm meant to use, I wasn't meant to use it at that time. So just because you have blue flame, I wrote a book on that topic. Just because you have a blue flame, a gift that you were meant to use, there might be a way for you to use it at some, higher, very perfectly distilled level, but it maybe right now is not the time for it. So I'm a big believer in God's timing with that. And the final thing I'll say, I actually hit all the topics I say I would hit. It's amazing. Is whatever it is that you're trying to do in life, you really have to let go of false humility. False humility, meaning that thing you do, and I am talking to you, like you're doing it. I promise you're doing it. Because I don't have followers who are arrogant. I really don't have a lot of arrogant followers. The problem with my followers is that they don't believe in themselves. I know you guys really well. You don't believe in yourselves, and that's a problem. And so you guys always have this false humility of like, I don't want to be worldly. I don't, it might be arrogant. If I thought that maybe I have something to add, that I should give a speech about, my testimony, or maybe that I should, share something, give a speech, write a book, or I even, make jewelry that I sell on Etsy, that would be worldly. That would be arrogant. Shady does it. Oh, see, I'm turning see, Shady is like, wait, why am I in this? Shady does it with her music. She's super crazy talented. She's so talented. A lot of you guys follow her on Instagram with her inscrutable handle that it's shade tree and an underscore and 5 E's. Right, but okay, we'll work on her Instagram handle. But the fact that she's not constantly putting her music out there, it's false humility. She's like, well, I don't know. She should be out there being like, look, God gave me a gift. Like, Jen can't sing. Jen can't Jen shouldn't ever touch a guitar. Like, look at what I can do that she can't, that a lot of people can't. And it's false humility to pretend like you don't have a gift that you do have. That's false humility. Think of someone who blessed you with their talents recently. Like, speaking of Nate Bargatze, I was listening to his stand-up the other day, and I was just tickled to death. He's just my favorite comedian.
Watching last night.
Watching him last night. And it's like, and it relieved my burdens. It just made me feel like life is okay for a minute. Now, imagine if Nate Bargatze had false humility'd his way out of that. Imagine if he'd been like, well, am I funny? I don't know. I don't think I have a talent for this. I don't really. Well, then he's withholding blessings from us by false humilitying your way out of a God-given gift. You are withholding blessings from me and from Shady. And we're mad. Aren't we mad?
I'm mad.
Yeah, we're mad.
Look at me.
Stop. You're withholding blessings from
I'm
us.
so mad.
The real, you want to know what's real? Like in Christianity, we talk about humility. You want to know what real humility is? It's using that gift. That is what humility is, to say, and you will watch how humble you feel when you start doing this. When you say, I think I have a gift, and I think God has given me a gift with, let's say it's with sewing. Like you can make really great clothes. I think God has given me a gift. It doesn't mean I think I'm the best in the world or like better than everyone. I think I'm good at this. And so I would like to put myself out there and start offering this as a service and charging some money for it, because time is money. Like none of us have infinite time. You will very quickly start to feel so humble, because you'll sew something and you'll be like, this is terrible. I have no talent. Why did I ever think this? Like, it is a very, very humbling road to walk, to actually use your gifts. The real humble thing to do is to say, yeah, I think I might actually have a gift for this, and I think I'll go ahead and use it. That is a humble servant attitude. The attitude of saying, well, I don't want to be worldly. I don't want to make it about me and my ego. You're making it about your ego, because what that's really about is you're afraid to get rejected. You're afraid you'll put yourself out there and people will leave comments telling you you're lame. Yeah. Okay, Shady hit the scary music. You're afraid that you'll put yourself out there and people will, or you'll get like low engagement, like you'll post a video of you using your gift. And you'll get that. Right. That's what you're afraid. That's why you're not afraid of being worldly. You are afraid that you'll try to put yourself out there and that you'll fail. And so you're telling yourself that, oh, I'm just too humble. You're not humble. You're being arrogant by doing that. So you need to put yourself out there and you just watch how humble. Yeah. If you worry about being full of yourself, you will not be full of yourself when you try to use your gifts. Like, trust me. So there you go. Thank you to, I need to thank this person by name. Catherine Landron 0. I assume the 0 is not part of her given name. Is she from the Landron Zeros from Connecticut? Catherine with a K and a Y.
Thank you,
Catherine Landron. Yeah, I love it. And I just have to share. So she said, all you people jumping on the Jen Fulweiler bandwagon, I've been following her since 2008. And but what I love too is that other people got in on this as well. And let's see, what was another one that I thought, this guy. So this is a wonderful young man who used to call into my radio show. He says, people are now jumping on the Jen Fulweiler bandwagon. I was carrying the fan load for her radio show for years. Where were y'all? Where were you?
Yeah,
and the thing is, he's not lying. I know who this young man is. I don't know if he wants me to say his name, but I know who he is, and he's not lying. He's not wrong. So, indeed, where were y'all? And then one of Lino Ruli's fans here said, and I know who all these people are. It's funny, they have all these anonymous handles, but I know who they are. He said, I hope I'm sharing the right thing. Yeah. Okay. He says, I'm digging the I loved Jen before it was cool posts. That's how you know you've made it. Indeed.
True.
It wasn't signing with UTA. It was the people talking about how they read my blog in 2008. So those comments are really sweet. You can look them up on Instagram and on Facebook. And something that I'm letting this go because I meant to say it at the beginning of the podcast. Very frustrated with myself that I didn't say it at the beginning, is I am asking for zip codes for where to go on my next stand-up comedy tour. Speaking of using your gifts, speaking of just putting yourself out there and doing things, and speaking of signing with UTA, because United Talent is the one booking this for me. Heidi and Jackie, they're amazing. I'm very excited about this. I forgot to say this at the beginning of the show. jensnextstop.com. jensnextstop.com is where you go to put in your zip code. We are going to map these zip codes and find out where I should go. I'll look at this with the UTA team. And some of you guys on my stories on Facebook and Instagram recently saw that last time I did this, I almost ended up in Luxembourg. So we'll try to get it right this time. That is jensnextstop.com. Put in your zip code, and I'm closing that form this Wednesday at, let's say, 8 p.m. East, because I would do like the midnight thing, but it's too complicated. Wednesday at 8 p.m. East, I will close this form, jensnextstop.com.
Get on it.
Yeah. If your zip code is not in there by then we'll never know. We'll never know. And some people say like, oh, I put the zip code of the nearest city. No, just put your actual zip code, because even if you live to the northeast of Bismarck, well, then we'll know, if we have a venue, one's in the southwest and one's in the northeast, maybe we should go to the northeastern, so do your actual, you don't need to try to find a big city. We will factor all of this in. jensnextstop.com. The form closes at, I'm just throwing this out, 8 p.m. East on Wednesday. I don't think I have a comedy show that night. So yes, so I can close that form. I do all this by hand, so I can close that form. I think I have hit everything. Join my Patreon, where I do fabulous bonus content. And I think I'm going to start doing little hangout sessions. Like, we do this podcast live, but I can't interact with you guys because I read all the comments later. So please do leave a comment, but I can't be interactive. But on Patreon, I think I'll do a Q&A. I think I might start doing that regularly, where you guys can just ask me anything and we can hang out. And my team and I spend quite a bit of time thinking about how can we make this an even better community? How can we, take things to the next level, offer great content? And then, of course, you also support my work, so that if I ever get canceled, I'll have it. That's what I love about Patreon, is you go direct to fans, and nobody, unless Patreon cancels me, nobody can stop that. So that is patreon.com/thisisjen, patreon.com/thisisjen. You get a bunch of bonus content in the form of a weekly podcast, more that I am adding. And and we have some pretty good ideas that I'm excited about. So be sure to do that. Patreon.com/thisisjen. Shady, I think that this was an absolute triumph.
Yes.
Of a broadcast. I think we will keep doing this live. What do you think?
I like it.
I find it easier to do live, because then I can't procrastinate. Because it used to be, before we went live. Well, actually, that's true. Before we went live, it was like, well, maybe I should spend 10 more minutes. I have a live radio background. I need to just be live.
Get on the air.
Yeah, just get on the air. Like, that's what I know. I'm more spontaneous that way. And look at these. Look at these notes, guys. Did I ever have notes before? Because that's what I would do. I would be unprepared. And well, I shouldn't say that. I would never waste you guys' time. I wasn't unprepared, but I knew the topics I wanted to hit. I knew my points, but it was more free form, because I knew
it's a little
that
more calculated.
Yeah, we could edit, and then we'd end up editing out, like, if I said something crazy. And now there's none of that. It's just,
now you get to hear
it's all live. Be sure to like and comment if you are watching right now on Instagram, Facebook, or YouTube. Be sure to like. Be sure to leave a comment. That tells the algorithm, like, oh, we should show more people what's going on. Yeah, I like it. And Shady, that's the other thing about going live. We were having a little behind the scenes here. We were having major upload issues where we would record the podcast. We record it with a very high quality camera. It would be like a 18 gig file. And so to get it up and then edited and then re-upload, sometimes the upload time itself would add up to 18-20 hours if we were having internet issues. And so I'd say something timely, something that's in the news today, and then like 3 days later we finally have it up. So I want to connect with you guys immediately, and so I think we're definitely doing it for May, but I think I will continue to just be live, and that is every Tuesday at 2:30 East. That is 1:30 Central, 12:30 Mountain, and 11:30 Pacific.
Wow.
Right, I got it this time. You can cue the exit music, Shady. Thank you very much. Thank you, Hallie Lord, at Hallie Lord on Instagram, for doing the behind the scenes producing. Shady is our on-site producer.
We'll work on
_ Shade.
We'll work on it.
Yeah, just search for Shady. I tag her on Instagram a lot. Thank you all very much. And I will be back with you next week, same time, same place, Tuesdays at 1:30 Central.